Hey guys, Sly here, and before we get into this video, I just want to let you guys know that this is actually a re-upload of a part of a series that I do on my Twitch channel called the SlytheWarrior Tierlists, where we pretty much rank a bunch of just random topics that I'm personally interested in. And so, because of that, these opinions are not set in stone for how I feel about in the current day. And so if you guys want a more updated version of that, feel free to either check out the DeviantArt link down below or tune in on my Twitch that will also be in the description, or check out my Discord where I occasionally post some more updated versions of how I feel about certain topics. And so do keep that in mind. And also make sure to check out the description of the video itself for the timestamps for the particular topic that is presented here. But in any event, I hope you guys do at least enjoy. I recommend you guys listen to this as either like a podcast form or as just something to play in the background. But in any event, hope you guys at least enjoy. Hey guys, welcome back to yet another tier list. These are the world famous, SlytheWarrior tier lists. I mean, you guys should know them by now. But tonight, we are actually going to be ranking the Total War games, which it's a little bit different. It's not something that you would expect at first, especially if you're pretty new to the channel. But before we get into that, though, I just want to say a couple of things. So if you guys didn't see the stream that I did a couple days ago, I already mentioned a couple stuff that I was going to talk about. Obviously, just in terms of me being here, that's a bit of a thing. But before I actually get out of here, I wanted to make sure that I get one more of these tier lists done before, winter break or whatever. And, we're doing this one. Granted, it's no new metal tier list. It's no Disney Channel tier list, which sucks because I wanted to do that. But because of scheduling, it's been a bit difficult. So instead, I am doing one more tier list by myself. So hopefully you guys are a little bit patient when it comes to me just doing tier lists by myself. I do apologize at the end of the day. But regardless of all that, though, I'm still kind of excited to do this tier list because it's obviously talking about Total War. Now, anyone who lives under a rock probably doesn't know what Total War is. So, to let y'all know, Total War is essentially, it's a strategy game. It's RTS where you're able to command full-on empires and, go into individual battles. Kind of think of it as like a hybrid of like, let's say Civilization and Age of Empires. That's basically kind of that's kind of the best analogy that I would personally give it. And while, yes, Civilization, of course, is, amongst some of the best strategy games of all time, I never really grew up with Civilization. I personally grew up more with the Total War franchise. And so because of that, I just have a little bit more of a bias towards this. Excuse me, oh my god. Now, granted, this wasn't my very first this wasn't my first, introduction to strategy games. As a matter of fact, I actually played, I think it was either Halo Wars or it was Age of Empires 2. Either way, I was introduced to, ensembles games way before anything else. But since those are RTS games and these are turn-based strategy games, it's a bit different. So, yeah, no, because of that, though, I don't know, I'm just kind of it's just a bit of an interesting series. And as you can see, it is actually historically based, and so you've got different time periods to represent each game, whether it be feudal Japan, medieval Europe, ancient Rome, the colonial / early imperialist era, you name it. Well, not nearly you name it, but I guarantee you at some point they're probably going to be making more games set in historical time periods. But, of course, in light of Warhammer 3, which, as you guys know, I'm a bit of a Warhammer fan myself, I kind of want to, talk about a bunch of the games before the big kahuna comes out. And yeah, just kind of talk about a lot of the games that came out in the past 21 years, which is just what? So yeah, and no, just to let everyone know, this is not, I'm not doing this because Legend of Total War did it. As a matter of fact, I actually had this planned out like a month before. So, no, but because I know there's going to be someone in there who's going to be like, oh, you're just repeating what he's doing. Wrong, because I've been doing this for over a year. No. I'm just kidding. People have done these before, but whatever. So, I guess the real question is, what am I ranking this on? So, I mean, it as you can see, I actually, for once, put all of the guidelines that I'll be putting right down there in the description, or the description of the tier list. So I am basing this off of just the general gameplay, whether it just, plays well, just as a whole. There's no like big bugs or crashes. Now, granted, every single Total War is going to have bugs and glitches. Unfortunately, it's just a franchise that does tend to have that sort of stuff. But I guess the real question is, does it have the least amount of bugs? Because, oh no, there's going to be some games that are going to not pass that bar. So you got that. You also got the AI, the artificial intelligence for the different units, because this is a tactics-based game, and since it does combine RTS aspects, you do command an army, and with that army comes with the AI on which they use, which basically you are able to use to command, or if you're attacking with computer bots, if that works or not. And with that as well, just the general combat, whether it works with different strategies and all that sort of stuff. Diplomacy things, because you are an empire, you have to interact with certain empires, and is it really all in depth or is it really restrictive? And then the multiplayer, not necessarily something that I will be ranking a lot specifically, because I'm not a multiplayer person, I am a campaign person, which that's another thing. I will be also ranking just whether or not I like the campaign overall, the factions, and just generally the innovation of the game, and whether or not the game either was good back then and still holds up today, or if it was good back then but it doesn't hold up anymore, or even vice versa. Because in my opinion, there's at least a few games where they started off really bad, but eventually they became way better. So that's what I'll be ranking everything on. So yeah, and also no Fall of the Samurai, because it was DLC at first. I know it's standalone now, but it was a part of Shogun 2, so I'm just gonna lump it in with that game. So also, I do apologize if I drink a lot of water. It's just I am really thirsty. So, but yeah, no, I'm really excited. Like I said, I'm actually kind of excited to talk about this, because this is my first solo tier list where I'm just specifically, I'm ranking a non-first person shooter related thing. So that's kind of cool. And granted, I will do Tom Clancy's. Don't worry, that will be a thing later. Trust me. I had to do the big 4 for FPS games. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six is another one, but that's besides the point. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, besides the tiers themselves, because as you can see, instead of the 6, I've got 4. So we've got the godly tier, which of course is just, I don't know. To me, there's actually not too many bad games in the franchise. There's really, a lot of it comes to just personal taste at the end of the day. Whether or not you like certain features over others, yeah, that's a whole thing. But for me, the godly tier are pretty much all the games that I pretty much really like. So there's that, and then you've got games that may not be my favorite, but I have more positive feelings towards, generally speaking. Negative, obviously, being the reverse, where I'm just not really a great fan of the game. And for the games that are really trash, take it away, Fantano.
It's not good.
Yeah, not good. So those are the games that I personally would not recommend. So yeah, and yes, I got that fixed. I'm really excited to use that more because oh boy, there's gonna be a lot. I'm gonna talk a lot of trash about some of these games, but either way, yeah, let's. I guess we could sort of begin now because I pretty much said everything I needed to say. So yeah. Oh, one more thing. So I actually did mention this a little bit with stuff for all the samurai not being included. I will be taking DLC into account or expansions. So for example, Medieval 2 has the Kingdoms expansion, and that will be just a part of Medieval 2. Shogun 2, like I said, has the Fall of the Samurai, but also Rise of the Samurai and all of the different faction packs. And then, obviously with Total War Warhammer, I mean, it's kind of impossible not to talk about that game with the expansions. Otherwise, So just keep that in mind. It's just we are considering the whole game as a package. Because I don't think I really made that clear enough when I was talking about Call of Duty Battlefield or even Halo to a certain extent. I like trying to make sure that I talk about as much content as I can for the game that I'm talking about. It's not just the standard edition of the game. It's the full complete edition, as I personally like to call it. So, good? Okay, we're good. Okay. Let's just get on with this. I know I'm wasting a little bit of time. As a matter of fact, I actually need to do a couple of things tonight anyways. So we're going to do this really quick. So let's start off with the first game, Shogun Total War. This came out in the year 2000. Damn, that was a long time ago. And this game is actually pretty basic. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So, actually, I'm gonna, however, with that said, I am gonna put this at a negative, which, I mean, at the end of the day, I just have to be real with you. So, this obviously was the very first Total War game, and I do respect it for that. That's why it's not at the not good tier, because I think it's disingenuous to call something the first of whatever to be, complete horseshit. There are very few exceptions, but I don't think Shogun Total War is a part of just, something that's completely awful, because it's not. Because obviously the campaign, it is a very, very bare bones campaign. It's not even 3D. It's literally just a map of Japan where you have I think there's only 8 factions in the game. Don't quote me on that one. But you have 8 to 11 factions in total in the game if you include the Mongol invasion expansion that came out. And you kind of only are able to move per a different province. So it feels more like Risk at the board game Risk, where you're only able to move your troops in between provinces instead of being able to move however long it is per turn, which does kind of tend for some exploitation. And while yes, a bit basic, I kind of like the idea of it being, basically just what I personally like to call a retelling of a board game for a computer. So to me, that's kind of cool. That being said, like I said, it is a very, 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 very bare bones version of what we would see in later games. And it does, sometimes it is a bit confusing on trying to figure out what exactly you are doing, because you have to do everything through like 2 tabs in total. And I guess that's kind of what I was talking about with whether or not a game holds up. This game was pretty innovative for its time, but you also have to keep in mind that the Civilization games were around a decade prior, and this came out the same year as Civilization 3, which, granted, that game has its problems, but generally speaking, I'd rather play on that game compared to this, at least in terms of the campaign. Now, in terms of the general combat, I mean, it was pretty innovative, or like the actual like battles themselves, it was pretty innovative. Though, instead of 3D models, you fight along with sprites. So, because once again, this was the early 2000s, even though there were a lot of games that were becoming 3D at the time, there were still also a lot of games that had to rely on sprites in the game in order for it to pretty much not crash. So I don't know, it's just, for me, I wouldn't personally recommend this as your first game. And I think that's basically what I'm trying to say, is that it's just, for its time, I imagine it was pretty good, but like I wouldn't really say it's something that has held up over time personally, but that's just me. So that being said, I think it's fair enough that we should talk about the sequel, Medieval Total War. And I hate to do it to this game, but considering the fact that this game was a direct sequel to Shogun Total War, it's
not good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This game is just, I just don't really care. Because here's the biggest problem with Medieval Total War. It's quite literally just an exact carbon copy of Shogun Total War, which, considering how, I don't want to say just, different, like, just how different, I guess, fine, just how different Shogun Total War was, compared to everything else. Like, it didn't feel like a grand strategy game, obviously, but it just, like, the controls just are a bit iffy to deal with. I don't know, I have to be a bit harsher on it. And I don't think this game has aged all that well. I give Shogun 1 a pass because it was the first game in the franchise, but I don't give Medieval 2 a pass because it's their next game in line. And it's literally just the same game except set in medieval Europe. So it was also, I think, yeah, this was released 2 years later, so in 2002. Granted, this obviously would be the base work for even greater things to come, which obviously we'll talk about that in a second. But, man, just don't... Once again, I don't really need to say anything else. It's literally just a carbon copy of Shogun, except in the medieval era. So, if that sounds interesting, I guess check it out. But I definitely wouldn't recommend it. It's not that it's even a bad game. It's just very just annoying to deal with, if that makes sense. Also, AI, specifically on the battles, not that great. Not that great at all. So that's kind of how I feel. All right, so now that we got those out of the way, and I probably just pissed off the OG fan base of the Total War 1 engine, which, just to let you know, I'm going to have to divide the games by the eras by their engine. So the first few games, they used what is called the Total War 1 engine. Rome 2 and Medieval 2 used the Total War 2 engine. And, okay, we'll talk about Rome 1 first. I'm going to put this as positive. I like this game. I think that this game is pretty good. It has its problems. We'll get to them later. But I think the innovations with this game make this hold up a lot more than the first two games. So, first thing that comes to mind whenever you get into this game. Just the amount of just the fact that it is a 3D map. Good. That's a positive right there, because it felt a little bit bland with Medieval 1. Thankfully, they were able to make it a little bit better by having the 3D, and also not even just having it 3D, but also having some small but effective voice acting. This was the first game to really have that, which is nice. There was also a lot more diplomatic options for the first time. Granted, what was annoying is that you had to get a diplomat in order to talk to different guys. You had to send them all the way to at least one of the other faction cities. That was kind of annoying, but that's besides the point. But you also had other agents such as assassins, and I don't think there were merchants in the game. Don't quote me on that. I think that was only in Medieval 2. Granted, it's been a while since I played this, but I do remember diplomats and assassins. They were in the game. Or were there merchants? I don't know. Remind me in the comments if I ever re-upload this on YouTube. Remind me in the comments. But I don't. Whatever. Basically, agents are in the game. That's good. Also, the alliances. I don't remember if they were in the first two games. I feel like they were definitely more. They played a bigger role in this game, and obviously that would set a precedent for other games to come, which is cool. What else was there? Oh yeah. Generally speaking, better at combat, I'd say. Granted, it wasn't perfect. Sometimes the AI would kind of go off the beaten path, and the battles, they were definitely quick in this game. People forget that Rome 1 had some of the quicker battles in terms of just, the pacing of it. I actually remember going through a match in Rome 1 that lasted I think it was 15 minutes. Which, for considering Medieval 2, Empire, and Napoleon, which obviously are the games that come after this, that's actually pretty short. So, yeah. But that doesn't mean that the game itself is bad, because I think, just generally speaking, the innovations at the time that this game brought to the table really do hold it up, and really do overweigh the negatives. Because if there is one major thing I don't like about Rome, the controls. I'm not gonna lie, the controls are just not that great anymore, and it feels a bit janky to play sometimes. And also, the soundtrack specifically on the campaign. No. I think the soundtrack is pretty not good for the campaign. Battle combat, pretty great. But campaign, soundtrack, no. Also, I want to say it was either... I'm pretty sure this was the first game to have multiplayer. And if it wasn't, then whatever. But generally speaking... obviously, many of people have talked about, the amount of, multiplayer stuff you're able to do with these types of games. And, that was pretty cool, I guess. Once again, not my thing, but it is what it is. Now, as for the expansions that came with this game, which were the Barbarian Invasion and the Alexander Conquests one, I mean... they're all right. I mean, it's cool that they're in the game. Granted, I don't think I really played too much of the Alexander one. That one's really hard too. Honestly, you have to beat the game in 100 turns unless you go into the code, and change the parameters. It was one of the hardest ones, if not the hardest campaign in all of Total War. So. Yikes. But Barbarian Invasion, it is what it is. Obviously, it would get somewhat of a sequel with Attila. We'll get to that later. And I don't know, just that's, I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about Rome. It's a good game, but it is flawed. So there you go. Holy crap, I'm already going through these relatively quickly, and I do not like that. I mean, okay, whatever. It is what it is. But I don't know. It was just a good game. I would recommend it. Though, get the remaster if you want better controls. That's all I've got to say. So, okay. So, we already reached a big one. So, obviously, Shogun 2, first game in the franchise, established everything. Medieval 1, wait, did I say Shogun 2? I meant Shogun 1. Yeah, Shogun 1, first game in the franchise. Obviously, set the stage for the rest of the series to come. Medieval 1 set up while basically being a carbon copy, the setting was cool, but obviously Rome 1 was the game that put the Total War 2 engine on the map, and was really just the game in general that put Total War on the map. As, if there's one thing I forgot to mention, they used footage from Rome Total War in History Channel stuff. Look it up. It's actually a true story. And combining all of these three, we get Medieval 2 Total War. Now, I know there's been some motherfuckers who say that this game has dated and is not as good as you make it out to be. Wrong. This is literally the best Total War game still. I don't get motherfuckers who say that this game is bad, because it's not bad. Dude. Sorry, I'm fanboying a little bit. I shouldn't be, because I fanboyed with Sly 2 and I fanboyed about Halo, but God, dude, come on. Okay, I'm going to compose myself. Okay, so what makes Medieval 2 better than the previous games that we talked about and other games that would come out? So, for starters, it's actually really not that different from Rome 1, if I'm going to be really honest with you guys. As a matter of fact, like I said, it does use the same engine, and it does have a lot of the same mechanics. So, it does have the Diplomat, it does have the Assassins, it does have the Alliance system and all that sort of stuff. What makes Medieval 2 better, in my opinion, compared to Rome 1, is this. Player choice. You can make the game either as easy or as hard as you want, because of the built-in mechanics that are within the game. Because besides just all the stuff that was in Rome 1, Medieval 2 also added in the ability to have your religious clergy, where you're able to influence the map and spread whatever religion you want. Then you've also got, with certain factions, you also have the ability to call either crusade or jihad. If you're a Catholic or if you're a Muslim faction, you're able to declare a giant holy war, and you can use that to pretty much take out other armies. Also, this game has some of the better building mechanics, because with this game, you're pretty much able to pre-enable buildings without having to already spend for that building. That is something that they would eventually get rid of in later Total War games. It's fucking stupid. I think that's lame. But you have that option to set it up. You also have the option to set up a lot of just the... you can have it auto-manage for itself. You can also have... What else was there? Oh, I don't know. It's just... To me, it's just a really refined version of Rome 1. At least in terms of the campaign. In terms of the actual, in-game, combat or whatever, the battles themselves, they're actually really damn good, especially siege combat, where the AI is no longer Granted, I wouldn't say this has the best AI. I think Shogun 2 has the best AI in all of Total War. But my God, if this is not number one, it's easily top two. Because like I rarely have had any issues when it comes to the AI with this game, and it it makes it feel like, I don't know. It's just, it makes it feel a lot more immersive when you don't have to, micromanage a bunch of shit. You can just have your you can just have your army, in one position or another, and they'll be able to take care of the job. Granted, there's obviously balance. There's obviously, a lot of like balancing stuff when it comes to like different units for different factions. But to me, that kind of adds to the strategy. You kind of want to have like the best troops that you want, either back in the reserve, or have that deal with either other tougher enemies, that your enemy might have. It's kind of like playing a card game, or just another. Yeah, it's kind of like playing a card game where you've got, lower level cards and then higher level cards. Or even Warhammer, which obviously we'll get to a little bit later, where you've got like lower level units and higher level units, and you have different abilities that coincide with them. It's sort of the same thing with Medieval 2. That was a thing to a certain extent with Rome 1, but I feel like that was exemplified a little bit more with Medieval 2, and that's something that I personally like. Also, like I said, I think the campaign map, I think generally speaking, is probably the best laid out. Out of that one's a bit difficult to say, though. I don't know. Generally speaking, I just like Medieval 2, just for a lot of those. But there's also the Kingdoms expansions, which, my God, those are really epic to play through, especially the Crusades. Oh my God, I don't care if that one's a lot of people's least favorite campaign. I love it. Just for, not obviously because of the theming. I pretty much made this explicit before. I do love Middle Eastern setting stuff. That's cool. But even more than that, just dealing with what happened during the 12th and 13th century when it comes to the Crusades. You got the Byzantines who have to take out the Venetians and the Turks before they get crushed or whatever. You also have to deal with the Mongols, and the other Crusader states. It's so cool. Also, the Aztec one, the Americas one, that one's pretty cool too. Being able to like play as a relatively smaller faction and then being able to just go after a big one, like a bigger one. I don't know, just the mechanics with that is pretty cool. Britannia, I mean, they got rid of the religious game mechanics in that campaign and replaced it with the culture mechanic. But I do like the idea of England basically going into a civil war and trying to make sure to hold on to its territory as much as possible. That's pretty cool. And then you got the Teutonic campaign, which, granted, I'd say that one's probably my least favorite out of all of them. But I still like the idea of, Lithuania. That's right, Lithuania being a pagan country, being a playable faction. And being able to hold out against, crusading forces. So, and also the soundtrack is so goddamn good in the game. Like, Teutonic especially is an amazing soundtrack. Oh my God. Listen to a lot of the tracks in that, as well as the Crusades. Chef's kiss. I love it. So, and there is one more aspect I do want to bring up, and to be fair, this isn't gonna really be a part of the ranking because I don't think it's really fair. But the fact that some of the best Total War mods, or really just mods that I've played with ever in general, came from this game, is just a blast to go through. Such as the Third Age mod, which converts the game into a Middle Earth setting from Lord of the Rings. I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. I got freaking 2 posters right there. There's also the stainless steel one, which is just a more refined version of what we get in the base campaign. You also got what's another one that's so good? There's so many good ones. I mean, there's Europa Barbarorum 2 with this, which I know it was in Rome 1 originally, but still. There's the Elder Scrolls Total War. Like, there's just so many cool mods that I have to shout out. Unfortunately, there's too many of them to shout out, but generally speaking, the fact that this game has so many mods is amazing. Once again, not something that completely ties into this, but it just exemplifies why this is a really solid base for even greater things to come out of it. And quite frankly, is probably like, just generally speaking, because of the amazing base content with this game, that's why it's my favorite game of the Total War franchise. I think it is a prime example on how to do Total War right. So, good job, Creative Assembly, for making a really good game. Which, by the way, it's been 15 years since that came out. Holy shit. God damn. Yeah, it came out in 2006. Yeah, if you see the pattern here, usually the games would come out every 2 years, typically speaking. So, 2000, 2002, 2004, 2006. They actually did skip a year, which we're going to get into just right now. So, okay, so obviously, Medieval 2 Total War. Arguably the best in the franchise. And a pretty good game in its own right? Just solid control. Well, mostly solid controls. Solid gameplay, solid campaign, solid combat, and solid multiplayer for the most part, and even the cooperative campaign. Yes, that was a thing in the Kingdoms expansion. So, generally speaking, that was pretty cool. What did they what did they do later on? 3 years after that, they did Empire Total War, and I have to be real with you guys. This game is actually compared to I'm gonna do a bit of a hot take actually. Empire negative. It's not a great game, and I get where people are coming from when it comes to just how frustrating this is for people. So, this game, like I said, it came out actually technically 2.5 years after Medieval 2. This came out in, I think, the spring. No, it came out in the late winter, early spring, if I'm not mistaken. Meanwhile, Medieval 2 came out in the late fall, early winter of 2006. So, yeah, and this is the first game to use the Warscape engine, or the Total War 3 engine, as some people call it, which is, I think, the same engine that they're still currently using to this day, which, I mean, that's a terrible idea, but whatever. It's a bad idea, but whatever. Oh my god, why am I yawning? Okay, there we go. So, what are some of the positives for this game? So, this takes place in the colonial times, so it takes place in the entirety of the 18th century. Which, interesting choice. The first game to have gun combat. Actually, the first game to have naval combat, surprisingly enough. Yeah, Medieval 2 and Rome 1 didn't have that. So, seeing that actually was pretty damn cool. Especially just being able to have, complete armadas of British and Spanish ships, or I guess French, because British and French hate each other. Have big armadas of British and French ships just duking it out with each other. That's probably, in my opinion, when this game is at its best. Naval combat is pretty dope in this game in that respect. And I will just say this, like, in terms of just the style of the the general campaign, it's actually kind of cool because you're able to actually play around the world, because you have You're not just isolated to Europe. You also have North America to deal with, where you're able to go in between different areas. You also have India to deal with, as well as different parts of the world, such as the coasts of South America, Southeast Asia, and Africa. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty cool. And being able to manage, if you're one of the colonial empires that had different colonies from these different areas, it's actually pretty cool trying to, defend a lot of that sort of territory against, rival factions. And that aspect is pretty cool. That's pretty much it, though. Yeah. The biggest problem with this game is definitely the AI. Yeah, no, the AI took a nosedive after Medieval 2, which is a shame because Medieval 2, like I said, had some really good AI. And to see that the AI is this trash, yikes. Like, I'm just going to be real with you. Battles are bad. Like, they're not even laughably bad. They're just really, 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 really bad. I remember the last time. Excuse me. Oh my god. Yeah, I remember the last time I played this game. Or not last time I played this game. It was like the last time I played the individual ground battles against bots, because I think it was this past 4th of July, Independence Day, just for a meme for Americans, right? Literally, the AI was running around in circles. Like, there were, I put down horseback units for the British. I was playing as America because reasons. And I had a bunch of British cavalry, because I wanted to make it a little bit more evenly fair. They decided that it was a good idea to have a bit of a horse race by running around a tree, constantly just going around and around and around and around and around and around and around. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Literally, your own units, if you command them to go anywhere, they will just go the opposite way. Literally, this is the first game where I felt like I had to micromanage every single fucking unit, because they wouldn't move, or they would just go a completely different way. The AI is fucking terrible in this game. So to me, ground combat is completely pointless, worthless. Don't play it for that. It's bad for that. As for the campaign side of things, this game is way too easy for its own good. Literally, I remember playing as the Maratha Confederacy, and I beat the game in I think it was 15 or 20 turns or something ridiculous by that. And if it's true that you're able to play as the British and beat the campaign in less than 5 turns, the game is broken. Your game is broken. That being said, there's a reason why this is not this. Like I said, this game is a negative, but it's borderline negative. The main reason why this is not good is because shoot, what was it? Oh yeah, it was because of those naval combats. The naval combat and the God, why can't I think of this? This was literally just off the top of my head, and I'm really mad that I just completely blocked this out of my mind. Fuck. Oh yeah, and also just the general layout of the map. That's what I meant to say. So those aspects are kind of cool and kind of innovative. But yeah, no, I wouldn't really recommend this as your first game either. Warpath campaign, just forget that it even exists. That doesn't exist. But whatever. Okay, so you had a not great game launch. What do you follow it up with? Let's take up Napoleon. I'm not gonna lie, I really don't like this game. I really don't like Napoleon, if I'm going to be real. Some people think that this game is better than Empire, but I really do not like this game, like, at all. Because to me, it just feels like a forced standalone expansion of Empire. Well, then why are you not adding in Fall of the Samurai with that logic? Because it was marketed as a completely separate game. This was literally a game that just took all the aspects that you had in Empire and just shrunk it. You just kind of condensed it to one specific area, in this instance, early 19th century Europe. And a lot of the same problems that I had with the AI are still present in this game. They just barely changed from the original Empire at all. As a matter of fact, I can make a good case that a lot of the changes that they made with this game compared to Empire were even worse. It was stupid. Actually, I forgot to mention this about Napoleon or Empire. So, Empire was the first game that allowed you to have diplomacy pretty much at any time without having to send an advisor or whatever. Thank God for that, because even though I like Medieval 2, that gets annoying sometimes. But as a result of that, you tend to get into a lot of wars if you decide to ally with people. That shit happens all the time with Napoleon, and I fucking hate that. Especially if I don't want to be allies with Poland, Lithuania, who always goes to fucking war with Austria for whatever reason. Like, but whatever, that's Empire. As for Napoleon, it's also just dumb, because you can only play as 5 factions in total. I shit you not. Like, you can only play as France, the British, the Russians, the Austrians, and the Prussians. Why are you doing that? Why can't we play as Spain? Why can't we play as the Ottomans? Why can't we play as anyone else besides those 5 stupid factions? It's stupid. And I don't know. And also, I think it's so fucking stupid that you have to play through the Napoleon precursor campaigns in order to get to the main campaign. That's fucking stupid. You should be able to play the game. You should be able to play the campaign initially. You shouldn't have to go through like 3 other campaigns to go through it. Also, the Peninsular campaign, below average. So, yeah, granted, the ground battles are a little bit better, but by a fraction. So, honestly, I'm not just going to put this at negative. I'm going to put this as
not good.
Yeah, not good. I'm sorry. I don't like Napoleon. If anyone I know, I put Napoleon below Empire. But guess what? I don't care. Fuck you. I don't care. This game's bad. This game's trash. And, God, yeah, I really don't like Napoleon. I don't think I'd say it's probably my just personal least favorite game in the franchise. I don't think it's the worst, but I just don't like what it represents. You know? It's just whatever. Let's move on. I already just completely just shred that game apart. I'm not going into another rant. Let's go to Shogun 2, which I think anyone who's reasonable will say that it's a positive game. I'm actually going to say it's godly, personally. Is it as good as Medieval 2? No. But I do think that the things that they did in this game, that they improved, heavily benefited Total War in the long run. Like, the fact that this game has some of the best battles that I, have ever just gone through are pretty awesome. Like, seriously. Granted, the battles are quick in this game. Compared to Medieval 2, Shogun 2 battles are a bit quick. But what I do like about this game is just... it's not... Okay. It's kind of like a hybrid between what they did with Empire and Medieval 2, except the controls are mastered in this game. Like, I think when you really boil it down, the way that you have to use, WASD to move instead of the arrow keys, as well as having, Q and E, kind of turn around the camera, and I think it was 0x to move the camera up and down. Those are masterful controls, and I think that, I don't know, it's weird to say that it's just like it's polished, but like it just feels well to play it. Also, just the art style and the art direction with this game, I think is pretty cool looking, because it kind of goes for a lot of that Japanese like a lot of that old Japanese painting art style. My apologies if it's not called painting. I know it's not called like specifically painting, but I'm not getting into that. But yeah, no, just a lot of that I think was pretty cool. Also, the relevance of agents are brought back up to this game, because they kind of took a sideshow with Empire and Napoleon. Granted, scholars were new in those games, and while those kind of benefited, I feel like that the geishas and the ninjas, I think that they were way better overall in this game, and just kind of helped do a lot for this. So that's cool. Also, I will have to say this. I think the only thing that this game does kind of go down with is that there's not a lot of unit variety. There's like a lot of the units that you'll be playing with and fighting against, kind of like it's all pretty much the same, with some minor differences between factions. Like the Equeak faction, they use a lot of monks, so you're not going to be seeing a lot of Yari Ashigaru or Bo Ashigaru. You're not going to be seeing a lot of those guys if you're playing as them, or if you're fighting them. But yeah, and then okay, what else is good? Oh yeah, diplomacy. So diplomacy did get a little bit of a tweak with this game. Granted, it's built off of what was in Empire and Napoleon, but I feel like with this game, it strikes the perfect balance between not being too easy, but like, not being too strict, but not being too lenient when it comes to working with different factions. I think that, that sort of, I don't want to say dynamic, but just how the system works, I think definitely does work for its benefit. Because, I don't know, it's just built off of what happened with Empire and Napoleon, but just made way better. I don't really know how to describe it, other than it feels like it works. You're not gonna get pushed away for just because you want a piece of technology. So that's cool. And I think even though this game set a precedent for DLC, I really don't like the fact that like there was quite a bit of DLC for this game. It was still enjoyable to play through overall. I don't know. I guess that's just sort of the main crux on why I don't think this game is as good as Medieval 2, because yes, while it has the Kingdom expansion, that's all you got to do. You just got to make 2 purchases. One if you're using on Steam, because they have the definitive edition now. So, yay for those guys who got that. I don't know. I'm personally just someone who is a believer of owning a game completely without having to deal with bullshit microtransactions or DLC content. I'm someone who really just hates that sort of stuff. So, and unfortunately, Total War is a series that is known for doing that sort of stuff. But I'd have to digress for the sake of just talking about the games as a whole. But whatever, that's a thing. But obviously, I am omitting the Fall of the Samurai. Once again, Fall of the Samurai, could be considered its own thing. But if we are taking that into consideration, it's a pretty solid experience, especially, arguably being the best gun-based Total War experience. Better than Empire, better than Napoleon. Granted, even better than the America's campaign in Medieval 2. I think, generally speaking, it works in that favor. And yeah, no, just overall, Shogun 2, I would recommend. It's not the best game in the world, but like, it's a good game. It's a good game. It's a solid 8. If not a 9. I don't know if it's a 9, but like, it's a solid game. That being said, oh no, we've got a game. It's a game of a game. It is the game Rome 2. So, I am well aware on this game's launch. This game was awful when it launched. Nearly as bad, if not worse, than Empire when it launched. Rome 2 was the buggiest, one of the glitchiest, and quite frankly, one of the poorest rated games on Steam at the time. 2013, right? And, it deserved to be crap on. Like, a lot of the things that they made promises for were just bad. Like, they were just gone. Including what happened with multiplayer, which is something that I completely forgot to talk about with Shogun 2. So Shogun 2 heavily innovated when it came to its multiplayer. It had what was called the avatar system, which basically meant that you were able to create your completely own Dynamo faction, create your own character, and create your own army. And you were able to send those armies into a Shogun 1/Medieval 1 style of map and battle other players from there. That was pretty cool. Even though it wasn't for me personally, I think that is something that really works in Total War's format, and is something that I think was pretty cool. Man, I wish that was in Rome 2. Because, damn it, they completely just butchered and removed that, which is sad and makes me angry, because you're removing features from previous Total War. Dude, it's kind of like what Call of Duty did, where they completely removed things like score streaks with the more recent games. That's stupid as hell. Whatever. I'm not getting into that. Go watch the tier list I did last year. It still kind of holds up. But anyways, we're not talking about Call of Duty. We're talking about Total War. Also, fuck you, Activision. So, yeah, no, this game launched terribly. But I'm going to give this a positive rating. Well, okay. If there was a middle tier, it would be in the middle. It is not as good as Rome 1. I will just say that right now. Like, I don't think, like, Rome 2 is definitely inferior in more than too many ways. But I think that what they did with this game heavily improved over time. They released the Emperor Edition, which pretty much just removed 90% of all the bugs, if not 95% of all the bugs that were in the original Rome 2, and just completely refined the experience in that respect. Also, that game came with the ability to have free content. There was quite a few things that were released for free. I think there were 2 full-on campaigns that were just completely released for free in this game, which was pretty cool. I think one of them was the Imperador Gus. I don't remember what it was called. It was the one that was in Latin. It was alright. Also, a lot of the DLC content in this game was actually pretty cool. As a matter of fact, I'm actually just going to look at the list of the different content that was in this game. Granted, some of it was better than, like, some of the other content, but, like, generally speaking, it was pretty cool. Once again, I'm a believer that, like, DLC content like that shouldn't even exist, but there were still some cool things. Where is it? All right, here we go. 16 DLC. So yeah, they also released a lot of free DLC with this game. This is, I think, the first game to have like, you know, free downloadable content. So Bacteria was released for free. The Seleucids were released for free. Mycelia was released for free. And yeah, you also had a lot of culture packs, which was, yeah, this was sort of the first game to kind of have like faction bundles. So for example, there was the Sea Colonies pack. There was the Desert Kingdoms pack, which that came out much later after the game came out. I think that came out in 2017 or 2018, which was insane. Like, what? Granted, I know there's a huge controversy involving that, but whatever. There was the Greek city-states, which I know freaking day one DLC, stupid practice, but whatever. It was so cool to play as Sparta and Athens and whatever else came out that. But there was also a lot of campaign packs. There was the Caesar and Gaul one. There was Hannibal at the Gates. There was the Wrath of Sparta. There was the Rise of the Republic. So like, the game got a lot of support. Probably even more so than most other historical Total War themed titles. And I have to give credit where credit is due with Creative Assembly for sticking to their guns with this game. Granted, it did it did start off terribly, which is why it's not a godly, but it did become a better game over time. And I gotta give credit where credit is due. So, there you go. Excuse me. Okay, then we've got Attila. Shit. Sorry, I'm gonna. Sorry, there's some in my mouth. All right, then we got Attila. So, okay, if I'm gonna be honest, this one's probably the most difficult for me to really rank. Because the thing about Attila is that it has some really, really good ideas in this. You know, this is kind of, like I said, this is kind of like a somewhat of a sequel to the barbarian invasion within Rome 1, or at least like a spinoff of that, whatever. And like I said, there's some really cool ideas. Obviously, I think that the mechanic of having a lot more horde factions, meaning factions that, you know, don't really have like specific states, they can just kind of roam around. I think that's a pretty cool concept. Also, the empire mechanics with the East and the West. Granted, it was really fucking hard, but like, you have to remember they were gonna fall anyways, or at least the western half. And so having, you know, to manage that, in theory, was pretty cool, you know? The issue with this game, actually there's multiple issues that a lot of people hate when it comes to this game, but I think the biggest issue with this game is probably the diplomatic options. This game's AI, when it comes to the diplomacy, is really fucking stubborn, and it makes the campaign really frustrating as a result. So I do agree with people that this is probably one of the lesser campaigns, like in terms of the base campaign. Age of Charlemagne, that campaign's pretty great. Last Roman, it's all right, but the base campaign as it goes, it's really hard to work with people in this game, and it really does piss me off, especially as someone who does like to try to ally with everyone. It's like, even like, I don't know, it's just compared to Shogun 2, like Shogun 2 can be restrictive at times, but at least you were able to, you know, have at least some deals made. With Attila, sometimes I force myself to try to download like a free diplomacy mod, because I fucking hate how the diplomacy works in this game. It's like I said, you have to give up so much for a faction to help you, and even then, it's only a very slim chance, and it fucking pisses me off. So that I really do not like. Also, the barbarian camp, like the barbarian mechanics, you know, like the horde mechanics, I mean, if you're playing specific factions, you're basically gonna get a game over. Like if you're playing as I don't even remember what the factions are in this game, if I'm going to be honest. I mean, that's not my fault. I mean, it's pretty much history. Like, yeah, Attila is based off of history, so of course it's going to have like a bunch of factions that I'm not necessarily going to remember, but whatever. Okay. Yeah, if you're going to play as the Slavic nations or some of the Longbeards, good fucking luck, because you're going to get your ass kicked like so easily. But if you're also playing a faction like the Western Roman Empire or even the Byzantines, you're gonna get your ass kicked too, because you're gonna have a lot of factions fight you, and you're gonna lose a lot of land and shit. It's really annoying. Um, I'd say the safest faction in the game is probably the Seleucids, the Persians, for those who don't know, because they have a lot of vassal stuff. But like, I don't know. Now, as for the general combat of the game, like the general, the battles themselves, I mean, they work fine. Siege battles are fucking dope in this game. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, just being able to go into, like, either a giant, Roman city or even, like, a small tribal camp, it's so immersive. Also, granted, this was in Rome, too, before, but, like, Siege, like, a lot of, like, I don't remember what they're called. The battles where it's both on sea and land. It works way better in this game than it did in Rome 2. Rome 2 had that, but it wasn't like it didn't really feel that great. But in this game, oh my god, it's great. I love it. I love that mechanic. And like especially playing as like a Viking faction or I guess a Viking forefather faction, it's so cool seeing a lot of those Scandinavian ships go in and just run through like like it's so great. So I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of things that I really do like about this game, but there's also a lot that I really don't like. So where do I put it? So I mean, okay. Is it better than Rome 2? Actually, yes. Okay, it is a better game than Rome 2. I'm just going to say it right now. But, like, it's still not as good as Rome 1. Like, I think we can be realistic about that. So, I don't know. I feel like Attila also just gets a lot of shit. Just, I don't know. It is what it is. So, as for like some of the other DLC stuff, like I said, they have Longbeards, which I think those are like a lot of the German factions, Slavic nations, the Celts, the Viking forefathers. I thought there was the Empires of Sand. That's a lot of the African and Middle Eastern factions right there. And then there's the Age of Charlemagne campaign, which is pretty cool. And then there was the Last Roman campaign, which it was all right. Like it was fine, it's whatever. It just existed, but whatever. That's a hot take for y'all, though. Attila in the positive. Some people hate this game. I don't blame them, but I don't think it's nearly as dog shit as some people make it out to be. But that being said, I think it's fair enough that we talk about the first Warhammer game. Total War Warhammer. So, obviously pretty cool when it came out. Quite frankly, one of, if not, the most unique game out of, well, it is definitely the most unique game because it was the first fantasy game. And hopefully they release other games besides the Warhammer license. And, a lot of the stuff involving the Empire and, Norska and the vampire counts and chaos and the dwarves, it led it to be such a not good game. It's
not good.
This game aged like sour milk. So I probably pissed some people off, but let me explain. So, yes, when this game came out, there were so many cool things about it. Just like being able to control giant creatures, like griffins, giants, freaking dragons, a lot of the steampunk stuff, like the steam tanks, gyrocopters, all that fun stuff. Bringing a lot of that stuff from the Total War, like from the Warhammer license. And like I said, I'm a Warhammer fan. I like a lot of that sort of stuff, especially going into the old world for Warhammer, the Warhammer Fantasy's old world. That was pretty cool. This game is irrelevant, though. Because Warhammer 2 exists, and this game is godly. So, yeah, okay. It's more than just the fact that, like, Warhammer 1's content was basically just brought over to Warhammer 2, and thus Warhammer 2 is the better game. I'm not just saying that. Granted, that is a part of that, and you still kind of have to pay for for Warhammer 1 so that you can get all the, old world races, so that you can get the Empire, Dwarves, Vampire Counts, and the Greenskins. So you're able to play as those guys. But I'm not going to lie. The campaign in Warhammer 1, okay, granted, I know it's Warhammer, but hear me out. It's depending on which faction you're playing, it's not a fun experience. Specifically if you're playing a Chaos faction. Like if you're playing as either Beastmen or the Warriors of Chaos, it's a fucking slog. It is absolutely criminal what they did with the Warriors of Chaos. Now, that's besides it even being a day one DLC. That's fucking stupid. Day one DLC is bullshit. It should not be a thing. It should be shunned to existence. But the fact that they made Warriors of Chaos literally the worst faction to play in the game is insulting, especially for a Warriors of Chaos / Saves Darkness player. It wounds me because it was like half the roster, no, less than half the roster that came out into 8th edition Warhammer 1 or Warhammer Fantasy, excuse me. Like, no, this. So yeah, no, that upset me. What also just sort of upsets me is I don't know, it's just like I said, I just feel like just a bunch of the other factions in this game just really were not fun to play at all. Like a lot of the secondary factions, I just did not care to play. Like, I don't even remember the names. I mean, what? Okay, sorry. I mean, a lot of the Greenskins sub-factions, I mean, I didn't really care. Oh yeah, Wood Elves were really fucking annoying to play as. Because you had to deal with the Beastmen, and you also had to make sure that you had enough, of a specific thing. It was a whole process. It was fucking stupid. Also, the mini campaigns that came with this game, because people forget, but there was a Beastman and a Wood Elf mini campaign that came with Warhammer 1. That one of them was specifically about the Empire area, and then the other one was about the Athalorian Forest. You could probably guess which ones those were for. And it felt like it was overpriced DLC. And once again, this goes to my idea of like DLC being bad, whatever. So I don't know. Generally speaking, like I just felt like this game felt like too much of a drag in certain areas. Now, I know it's the Warhammer universe. Obviously, you're gonna have that sort of stuff. But I felt like it's not really fair to compare it to Warhammer when it's a total war game. So, yeah. I don't know. I personally would not really recommend this game. Granted, is this better than Napoleon? Yes. And it's better than Medieval 2, actually. I can't believe I just said that. Medieval 1. Medieval 2 is the best, not Medieval 1. Fuck that shit. But I don't know. I wouldn't really recommend the get this game to play it. You know, like I wouldn't really say that, oh, you have to play this game. No. The reason why is because Warhammer 2 exists. Now, granted, I have a feeling that Warhammer 2 is going to basically be irrelevant thanks to Warhammer 3, because that's just kind of how they set up, these games. Which, fair enough. Like if you want to make it to where it's more set up as if it was a progression of content throughout a different game or whatever, like trying to make it more of a platform, that's fine. Though obviously someone would have to keep that in mind if they were going into these games. And make sure not to get the fucking Epic version of the game. Don't get that shit. Epic Store's bad. But Warhammer 2, quite frankly, is a pretty good game. Like, it's an amazing, I'd say not only is it an amazing Warhammer game and not even just a really great Total War game, it's just a great fantasy game. Because there's a lot more utility with this game. Like, there's a lot more, I feel like this is the game where I felt like a lot of the challenge felt way more fair in comparison to Warhammer 1. The Dark Elf, like, it felt like you weren't really getting run down in this game. And, like, meaning that, like, you had a lot of ways to get out of sticky situations in this game. So, for example, if you're playing as, like, Skaven, they have the food and the corruption mechanic. You might sometimes get yourself screwed over, by, like, an elven army, but you actually have a counter to a lot of that sort of stuff because you have the I don't remember what they're called, the rituals. You have the ritual mechanic. And what that does is that it allows you, the player, to have a second leg and a second chance to pretty much have to deal with the sort of situation or whatever. It's basically like a buff or whatever. And I like that sort of mechanic. Also, just a lot of the, I don't know, just the overall campaign, the base campaign, it feels right to play, if that makes sense. Like, it feels like it's a proper sort of sequel to Warhammer 1, but like just kind of set in a different place. That's until you take into the consideration of the Mortal Empires campaign, which, if you guys don't know, that's why Warhammer 1 is made irrelevant. It's because the Mortal Empires exists, because it takes what was in the Warhammer 1 map and just throws it into the Warhammer 2 map. And that is so cool. It makes the game a lot more it makes the game feel way bigger, and it makes just the whole scope of the map feel a much bigger world. That's one of the things that I give Empire Total War a little bit of credit. Granted, I already said my whole spiel about Empire, but generally speaking, that sort of mechanic was brought back. And that, to me, is appreciated. Granted, naval battles are gone still. That's fucking stupid. They should have naval battles in Warhammer 3. I don't care if it takes them 1,000,000 years to try to create their own goddamn Slaanesh ships. I don't fucking care. Make a goddamn ship combat thing in Warhammer 3. I want that to happen. Rant over. But, like, generally speaking, it's just a solid game. And also diplomacy, I feel like, works a little bit more. And also the balancing of different units kind of goes back to the Medieval 2 style of balancing, which, I personally like. So, I don't know, just generally speaking, I think that Warhammer 2 is the prime example on how you evolve from your previous game and make a proper sequel. And granted, once again, my whole DLC bullshit spew, I really don't like. But if you're going to go down the route of making your game more like a platform, of expanded content, Warhammer 2 is how you do it. So, granted, there are still some issues with the game, and they gotta fix that out either as soon as they can with this, or do it with Warhammer 3. The God, they've fucking fixed chaos in that one. But, just generally speaking, it's a good game. It's a good game. So, I would recommend it, especially if you're going to play with multiplayer, which is something I forgot to mention about Rome 2 and Attila and the other Warhammer game. Co-op campaign is back. Yay. So, I'm sorry. I want to get these done because I actually had to do some. Oh my god. Yeah, I have to do some in like half an hour. So, yeah. Now, let's get into okay, I don't even want to just. Okay, I'm just gonna just do it. Thrones of Britannia.
Not good.
Not good. This game's not good. If you're a Total War fan, you already know why this game's not good, dude. Literally, I think I refunded this game whenever I first got. Yeah. So a little fun story about this game. I back in 2019 bought this game at some point. It was on a sale or whatever. I think I got it for $15, if I want to say. $10-15. It was a pretty decent sale. Dear God, literally, the multiple crashes. Literally, I think the game crashed like 3 times in a freaking row after, like, trying to load in a battle sequence. That should pretty much tell you how fucking buggy and just how fucking dog shit this game is. I swear to God, like I said, I'm not the only one who had that issue. A ton of people were having similar issues with this game, and it was just embarrassing. Sorry. And that's shameful. It's just shameful that this game is literally, this game is an insult to the $10-15 that I spent on it because it wouldn't even fucking work. And apparently that wasn't even the only issue that people had with this game. Some of it I also personally agree with. The stupid fucking like a UI, and just a lot of like just okay, besides the glitches and all that stuff, which is and like the crashes, which was a huge fucking problem. This game, compared to even Empire and Rome 2 at launch, this game made you micromanage way too much bullshit. Like, if you had to, like, you had to do, like, I don't know, it's just a lot of, like, if there was, like, the game basically relied on pop-ups. Like, hey, if there was something that happened, it would pop up on a screen. Like, it would pop up, like, 5 different screens or whatever. If it was, like, something that had to do with, like, a building thing or whatever, guess what? Then you would have to, click on the individual thing, and sometimes it just wouldn't even work or whatever. I don't know. There was just a lot of just technical issues, and just not only technical issues, but also just a lot of issues with this game that were inherent to the gameplay itself. It made you... I'm going to look this up again, because I completely forget. Like, I'm trying to remember. Granted, like I said, it's been a while since I played this game, to be fair, but my initial experience was completely dog shit when it came to this game. So, yeah, it also didn't help that, like, they literally abandoned this game. Literally after they did the blood pack, which I'm not even going into the blood pack. The blood pack is stupid. Well, apparently I already have it, but whatever.
Yeah, just this game just did not have enough content. Like, you only had like a handful of factions at launch, which that's another reason why I think Warhammer 1 kind of sucked anyways, is because there was literally only 4 factions at the beginning of the game, which was dumb as hell. Same thing happened with Thrones of Britannia. And that was a bad move. That was a really, really bad move and a really, really stupid move. And I don't know, just don't play this game. Like, I probably can't really give this game justice. Go watch literally every other Total War YouTuber or content creator. They will tell you exactly why this game is bad. My personal experience was just mostly game frustration and crashes. And considering that, this is my least favorite Total War game. Like, in my opinion, this is the worst. So, I personally, I would not recommend this game. Granted, like I said, I think Napoleon is my least favorite, but it's not nearly as bad as Thrones of Britannia. So, yeah, that's a thing. So don't support this game. Like, unless if it like becomes like $5, which right now it's $10, so it's not even worth it. So don't get this game at full price. I hope to God people didn't do that. But thankfully we are at the last two, the two most recent Total War games for the Big Kahuna, Warhammer 3. So Total War 3 Kingdoms. So I'm not going to lie, I barely played this one. I don't even have this one on my Steam. Literally, I only played this like once, but like barely at a friend's house because they had 3 Kingdoms. So, which is good for them, you know. It's it's a cool one. Actually, based off of my experience and from what I've seen, I'm gonna put this one as a positive, but like in the middle of the tier list. So for me, I do like a lot of what they are what they did with this game. Personally, I think that the diplomacy mechanics, the fact that they completely overhauled it to where exactly you know what you're doing was pretty cool. The fact that you're able to not make like huge adjustments, but like make incremental adjustments to the different offers that you're making for different factions and all that sort of stuff. That's pretty beneficial. Also, I know people gave so much shit about the generals mechanic, which was basically brought over from the Warhammer games. They applied that to a lot of the generals in this game. I mean, I personally didn't mind that. As a matter of fact, I think it kind of made the game a little bit more bearable. Excuse me. Like, it kind of made it a little bit more bearable because for a fact that one of your guys isn't going to like completely die or whatever. Like, they had enough strength on their own to do their own thing, which was pretty cool. Also, I think I think this was like another game that really was pretty polished when it came out. Like, it was not a bug fest and it wasn't a glitch fest. It was like Shogun 2 and Medieval 2 when it came out. There were not a lot of glitches, which that's good. You don't want that. You don't want that in your game. That being said, like I said, this is kind of a skewed perspective because, like I said, I only played this game for like an hour or so. So, like, in total in my life. So I kind of don't really have the full perspective. So that's why I do like the game. If I get it on a really good sale, which it's not on a good sale right now. It is on sale, but it's not on a good sale right now. Let me check exactly what it is. I know it's on the top of my rankings for different games. It's still $36 fucking dollars. That game is too rich for me. So no. I'm not paying for $36 for that. That's not good. But whatever. I think just a big problem that I did see about this game though is that I did see that the DLC a lot of people thought was trash. Like, yeah, I see a lot of like, yeah, the Eight Princes, completely negative right now in terms of reviews. The Mandate of Heaven, that one's a mixed review. The White Tiger Yawn, that one's a mixed review. Tao Qian, that one's a mixed review. What portrays positive. The Furious Wild, that one's pretty mixed. The Fates Divided, like there's just, I feel like a lot of people really just don't like the DLC in this game. So I am a little bit concerned if I do get into this game about that. Wow, that was a singing yawn. I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned about that, but I think from what I played with the base game, it's pretty cool. So, oh, one more thing. I think a lot of people complain about this game because it wasn't really fully a historical title. It was more mythical. What do I mean by that? I mean that like it takes elements for, okay, it is mostly historical title, but it takes, fantastical elements similar to like, basically sprinkles in a little bit of like Warhammer, Total War stuff in here. Like, I think there's like different, like, not magic abilities, but like different abilities for like generals or something like that. It doesn't show in the freaking thing, but yeah, they basically made, the heroes, like demigods. And so, like I said earlier, like they were basically given a shit ton of health. And as a result, people did not like that change. I personally disagree with that because I think that it kind of adds to the character and it makes it to where, hey, I'm not going to have this guy killed or whatever. So that's just me personally, but whatever. Let's move on to the last game, Troy, Total War. I actually got this game for free, as well as the Amazon's DLC, through the fucking Epic Store. So yeah, for the first 24 hours, this game was released for free for people who were able to get on that thing and download it. And I'm not going to lie, I really don't like this game. Negative. Granted, it's not a terrible game. It did improve a little bit, but I still don't think this game is really all that great. And considering the fact that they barely have done anything, as a matter of fact, they just released a freaking $30 DLC for just updating the campaign and like adding in like 8 monsters. Unacceptable. Absolutely fucking disgusting with how much that DLC is. It should literally be half the price. I don't know why it's $30. I don't actually. Is it $30 on? I'm gonna check the Steam version. Okay, so the base game right now is $37 because of the thing. Okay, oh, it's only $25, but that's still a lot of money for a freaking DLC that only adds in like 8 mythical creatures. Like that is just insulting. Like, come on, man. It's not even on sale. The base game's only on sale. That's so fucking stupid. But I digress. I don't know. They're just not doing they're just not doing anything with the game right now. They're just kind of sprinkling in some content, but like they're just kind of letting it be its own thing. And that, to me, is kind of not good. It's kind of...
It's not good.
Like, it's just not. It's just not. Because, like, I don't know. Whatever. Now, what about the game itself? Like, what about the mechanics and all that stuff? Well, it's pretty underwhelming. The stylistic stuff is kind of cool. But, my God, the actual look of the game is... They need to stop using the Warscape engine. This game, this engine's starting to look really bad now. they've had this shit since 2009, and granted, the graphics have updated ever like since. But like I don't know, it's just it looks like a game straight out of like 2011, and it doesn't look all that good. Now graphics aside, because it's not the most important thing when it comes to like a strategy game. Just the diplomacy did take a step back from Three Kingdoms, which is bizarre because that was the game that directly preceded it. But I digress. Combat it's a mixed bag. Sometimes sometimes the AI works fine. Sometimes the AI can be frustrating. Not nearly as bad as Empire or Rome 2 in that respect, but just whatever. And just the UI is just really, it's just weird. Like I remember the first time I played this, I was so confused on what to freaking do, cause like everything just looked the goddamn same on the UI pattern. Like it was not a good UI. I don't know if they changed it since, but it was really bad. So I don't know. That being said, I mean, is it a better game than Empire? Yes. Is it okay? Shogun 2, or Shogun 1, I feel like is kind of worse than these. Even though I'm not gonna put it down here, but like, I don't know. That's just kind of how I feel, and honestly, that's kind of how I feel about Total War in total. Holy.
We were only doing this for an hour and 40 minutes. This is the fastest I've ever done for any tier list. Holy shit.
Ha! That's great. But okay, I'm just gonna elaborate just on this for a little bit. So overall, Total War I feel like is a pretty mixed bag series. Like there are some good games, there's some bad games, but overall, I think just it does, generally speaking, more good than wrong, or more good than bad. But either way, I still think the games are pretty cool to play. Like even like the worst game, except for Thrones of Britannia, there can be at least something in the game that you'll like, and like that's something that you have to at least appreciate the game for. Like there's at least like an amount of like attention to detail when it comes to like a lot of the historical stuff, and just being able to be able to play as many major empires in history, and even nowadays in fantasy settings, I think that's pretty cool. So overall, I guess I just kind of wanted to end on this note that I, want to, like, even though I don't typically stream Total War that much anymore, I kind of moved on to other things. I kind of wanted to at least spread the love for this franchise, because I think that Total War is a good game overall, or a good franchise overall. Like, go check out Medieval 2, Shogun 2, Warhammer 2, basically all the 2s. And like just be able to do whatever you want in that. So I don't know, it's just something that I personally recommend overall. And I hope that anyone who isn't familiar with this franchise checks it out for yourself. Granted, it's only a PC game thing, so this is not on consoles. So if you're a console fan, then unfortunately this is not your franchise. This ain't for you. But I don't know. It's cool. I don't know. It's cool. Wow. I know. I'm good with English, but I don't know. I do hope that they do good with Warhammer 3. Like, dude, it's Warhammer 3. How are they gonna fuck it up? Now that I say that, it's gonna get fucked up, isn't it? I said that shit for Battlefield, and I'm pissed off because what I said last, whenever I talked about Battlefield, talking about hope for Battlefield in that tier list. God, that aged poorly, and I'm so sorry for everyone who had to witness that. I'm so sorry. God damn it. But I am guaranteeing you this will be better than Battlefield 2042, and I know they're different franchises, but I'm just saying in like comparison to like, you know, an upcoming game that's coming out, you know, later, you know, that has been confirmed, and talking about how the game will actually be at launch, it's going to be fine. So, I mean, Creative Assembly, yeah, despite a lot of the faults that they have, they typically, you know, recognize when they do good and when they do bad. So, all right. Well, either way, I'm so tired. I gotta get stuff tonight. So I'm gonna have to leave y'all here. God, this was like one of the shortest tier lists I've ever done, if not the shortest. Holy shit! But either way, I hope you guys at least enjoyed listening to me ramble, listening to me not being able to speak. But more importantly, just being able for me to talk about a game series that I hope you guys will play as well. Now, that being said, if you guys did enjoy this and want to continue seeing more tier lists, make sure you hit that follow button down below and turn on the bell icon so that you'll be notified exactly when I'll be streaming. While you guys are at it, check out the links down below as well, specifically the Discord and the SoundCloud. Because you also want to as well, you can also hit that subscribe button. If you can't do that, that is completely fine. I'm just glad you took time to watch this. If you want an incentive though, if we reach 5 subscribers on Twitch, I got a Super Nintendo. So, yeah, that'll be cool. But you know, also, yeah, you can also check out the Discord specifically and all that stuff. But yeah, no, I think that will be pretty much it. Now, as for the next tier list, I mean, at this point, it's probably just going to be a Christmas tier list. At this point, like, I don't know what else I'll be doing, so it also depends on where I'm going, but that's a whole other topic. But regardless, I will see you guys in the next one, and I'll see you guys later. Bye. Okay, can I turn this off? Okay, there we go. Bye.